Yeah, well, there's no questions in the chat as I can see them at the minute, but I'll just start the ball rolling, Chris, if you don't mind. Whenever you look at the two rugby clips, and it is interesting because I did watch that game myself. Simon Richards says, of course, he's Welsh. He said thought both Welsh tries were sublime. But it is interesting, isn't it? And what part does this play in it? That the papers the next day talked about that French refereeing having previous history with England, and you would have thought if there was history, whether that's a fair comment or an unfair comment, and look, match officials get that all the time, that you would be 100% accurate with what you were trying to do and precise, because you knew that there was previous history, that the last thing you want to do is create more history. Is that fair?
Yes, I think so. And I think this is all about how officials are supported. And I think the officials need to be encouraged to be honest with themselves as well, and with their support network. Say, look, I've got issues with England. Help me overcome it. Don't let me do them, or you choose what I do. But that honesty is important, and I think the support network has to move away from the politics and look at who are the best officials for these matches, the right official for the right match. And I think that is so important. And those issues are really, because it puts so much pressure on the official, and they're in a no-win situation, I think, sometimes.
I think the other point for me, I was just making some notes on the English English game against New Zealand, and one thing that struck me in that game was that the umpires did not take responsibility.
Correct.
They passed the responsibility on to England, and almost said, if you actually make a how's that, I'm going to give him out, as opposed to a situation like that. And it's very similar to the Lee Mason in the football one, where you actually see something which is so strange and it's out of the box, and what is required is quick thinking and take control of the situation very, very, very quickly, and almost be matter-of-factly by saying 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that fair comment, as opposed to almost like leaving it to somebody else to influence the decision that you'll ultimately make?
No, absolutely. And cricket umpires are renowned for trying to deflect responsibility to others, to the players. And the players hate it. The players don't want responsibility. That's why the official is there. Make the call, please. They want the official to make the call, and that's the umpire's job. That's what they're there for, isn't it?
Yeah. So here's a question from Mark Milligan. Like yourself, Chris, he's a school teacher. So was the correct decision made in the T20 final when England won the World Cup? Surprise not, and incidentally against New Zealand again. What was the rule involved there in terms of the player crossing and the runs being given?
Technically, it was an incorrect decision.
Right.
Because I'm just trying to remember, it's because they hadn't crossed. So they should only have got one of the runs and not, or they hadn't crossed, they've only got the boundary and not the 5.
Right, okay.
Yes, so technically, yes.
Okay.
Strategically, the right decision, though.
It's also very interesting whenever you actually talk about your officiating model, because this is webinar number 7 for us, and we have touched on most of these things: skill, knowledge, fitness, preparation, application, and teamwork, and decisions. And one other thing that actually really caught my attention was about technology modeling thinking. And for us, whenever you talk about technology, at this particular point in time, we don't have a VAR model in Northern Ireland, but what we do have is we have communication systems, and we have buzzer flags. And one of the things that can happen is that with the use of things like this, that can anesthetize, I believe, your core human skills. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm a big well, I get lots of questions and requests to put cameras on umpires and all sorts at first class level, and I just have to say no, because if you go down that road and you give them too much support, you end up de-skilling them, And I'm not in favour of what I see are doing in terms of letting the third umpire call no balls, because what that is doing, so elite umpires don't have to call no balls. But what happens when they come back into our county game and they haven't called a no ball for 6 months? You're actually de-skilling them. That's a core part of match officiating. And it's the same with any technology that you bring in. It's really important that if at all possible, you have to forget it's there until it's there, if you see what I mean. You can't rely on it. You have to officiate the game and you have to make a call. And if you make the wrong call, you can still get away with it. But if someone can come in and overturn it, well, that's fine as well. But you still got to make the. I mean, there's a story I heard from American football, which is tailor-made for television, where the on-field officials saw whether someone had a complete catch or something, and he was 80% certain it was a complete catch. But he thought, I've got video technology, I'll go upstairs. He went upstairs, and the video official said, no, incomplete catch. The only person on that venue, who knew the right answer was the official himself, who had sent it upstairs just to be safe and sorry. And he had to live with the fact that he'd given the wrong call, even though he knew what the right call was.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
There's a question here from Rory, and it's a very good question. You know, there's 17 laws in the laws of the game. I don't know how many laws there are in cricket. But everybody talks about law 18, which is the law of common sense. So some commentators, Rory, some commentators frequently use to free up match officials should use common sense. Would you agree that this is impossible as law trumps everything and officials can't stray from that?
I agree totally. I hate it when cricket umpires say law 43, common sense, because it doesn't exist. They've got a framework of laws that they've got to base every decision on that framework, and they've got to be able to justify it in accordance with whichever one they're using. If they go outside that, sorry, they've hung themselves out to dry.
Right. What do you think then of so in that first rugby game, that first one, it appeared as if the technology was there, or well, not the second one. You say he actually framed the question wrong. What do you think then of the first try? Where do you think the referee controlled the situation well? And is that a problem with regards to match officials controlling the things? He actually said time on or something similar. It seemed to me as if Farrell wanted to actually pull his socks up and fix his hair. And the game wouldn't be restarting until he was ready. And all his players had gathered their wits about them. And of course, the issue is, and it's the same as football, and maybe slightly different to the Lee Mason thing, is that if a team has been fouled or surely you must give them the opportunity to take advantage of the benefit of the free kick or whatever it might be and allow play to continue, as long as the other players know that you're allowing play to continue. Is that a fair point?
It is, providing you haven't told Farrell to go and gather all your players together and give them a talk. And that was the problem. So he'd gather them together. So he'd pulled both the wings had come into the posts. And of course, the Welsh number 10, I can't remember his name now, but he's always moaning, the Welsh number 10. He'll make a good footballer because he's always moaning at the referee. He's trying to get free kicks here, penalties there, penalties everywhere. And he would have been badgering the referee, come on, let me go, let me go, let me go, let me go. And the referee just completely lost it somehow. He said, yes, go. And the only way back for him would have been to immediately realize that and say, yeah, sorry, come back and take it again. But I don't know what he was thinking.
Okay. I was very interested in, and other people who are maybe have missed this session will record it and we'll send it out. Very interesting in your selling decision model of 7% spoken, 38% tone, and 55% body language. That's really, really interesting. But on a tangent, do you think that match officials can talk too much to players in terms of trying to be approachable, in terms of your positive traits, for example? Do you think, because that's something that I'm not saying is drummed in, but that's something that you know, we would actually say to our match officials, you're not there to explain your decisions, you're there just simply to apply the laws of the game. But where does where does your person come into that with regards to, no, I saw the touch, it was a corner kick, no, it wasn't a foul inside the penalty area, there was a clear winning of the ball. What's your general opinion about that?
I think your use of language is really important. And I think you have to rehearse, or certainly know what language and type of language you're going to use. Because I'll give you an example from cricket, which is what I know best. Richard Kettleborough, elite umpire, he was at square leg, and he had to adjudicate on a catch going to the slips. So there's no doubt whether the batsman had hit it, but he ruled not out. As he walked off the field, the coach was furious, and he confronted him and said, "Are you calling my players a cheat?" And he just said, "I didn't think it carried," which actually killed the argument. Because if he didn't think it carried, there's only one decision he could have given. Yes. So the argument goes away. He didn't say it didn't carry, because that prolongs the argument. So the use of language is really important. Don't give too much away. Give a little bit of yourself. This is why knowledge of yourself and as an individual and your personality is so important. Because we all know officials who get away with talking more than we think they should. But they can get away with it because they've got the turn of phrase, and that's just their personality. And we all try and emulate that. We sometimes think that's how it's good to be, but it's not. You have to be true to yourself. And you may have seen an umpire called Billy Bowden from New Zealand a few years back.
The bent finger, yeah. Billy.
He had a bent finger unless you offered him a £10 note. And he's like that, you know. But cricket, the challenge of cricket is the length of time the game takes. Over 5 days, if you try and be something you're not, you can't do it. And with him, you could turn a test match on day 2, day 3, day 4. You quickly look at him. If he's being all flamboyant and showy, you know he's having a good game. If he's having a bad game and Ponting's got to him, he just goes really quiet and passive. And of course, that's no good for an official, because you need to be the same throughout the game. You have to have that consistency, that balance, help both sides an equal number of times, etc., be completely fair. And that's where your use of language, especially if you know one team better than another. So if you're refereeing your local side against a side from another neighborhood, and you know all the names of one, the other side can think you're favoring them because you talk to them using Christian names and you talk to them, the others using a number. You've got to be so careful, haven't you?
You do. So there's a question here whilst we were talking there from Francie Hart. Thank you, Francie. And it's really got to do with the tools that match officials have. Now, for referees, it's their whistle, for example. And do you agree that like a strong, sharp whistling can help sell decisions? What's your thoughts on that?
I think if you are a top official, you will use the whistle appropriately so that, you know, depending how you blow it, they'll know it's for a free kick or throw in or something, or a penalty. They'll know from the sound because you've got a different blow.
Yeah.
You know, everyone knows the end of the game. It's a different blow if it's just gone for a throw in. And that expectation is really important. You know, the same blow for every decision if it varies. And the whistle is a great asset for a football referee and especially a rugby referee. Because the players in a scrum who can't see the referee, they know from the sound of the whistle, ideally, that, oh, this is a penalty, as opposed to just get up gently.
Yes. Okay. One of the other things, and guys, I'm probably going to, if no more questions, it's 19:59. I'm going to close in a minute or two. I think one of the most powerful thing that you said, well, in my opinion, there's a lot of good things you said, Chris, but one of the most powerful things you said to me was that I'm picking up is knowledge opens the door to sell anything.
Yeah.
And you know, can you really sort of finally leave us a thought by what you mean by that?
I was thinking of Wayne Barnes and his precision of language. And it's just on investigating how he does that, apart from being a barrister, which clearly helps him. But he says it's all about the knowledge. He knows everything backwards, all the laws, all the interpretations, he knows them. So what he can do with that knowledge, he can give the explanation as to why he's made the decision and justify it by law and interpretation in a way that the players will not argue with him, because it's on very solid ground.
Mm.
And that's really what sparked that comment.